Welcome to the EOcafe, where the EO community meets. Today, we're going to have a look at the Green Deal and how the Earth observation can play a role in the Green Deal and the links to the Earth observation community. It's a big subject. It's a very complex subject. We cannot tackle it all today. So what I'm hoping to do is to set some of the perspectives, the high-level perspectives of the Green Deal, especially linking it to the EU space program. And in future weeks, we will have other subjects dedicated to certain parts of the Green Deal. So it's going to be a subject that we will come back to. So if you don't understand it all today, then you have other chances to address it. A reminder on the rules: keep your microphones off unless you're asked to speak. Keep your cameras on if you wish. It's not obligatory, but it does give us a chance to see everyone who's here. Gives us a better ambience. If you want to ask a question, put it into the chat. And when we come to the question session, I will turn to you and ask you to pose your question directly. But please put it in the chat first. So the Green Deal is one of the 6 priorities for the Commission defined for the period 2019 to 2024. So there's a Green Deal alongside the digital strategy, which is highly relevant. The economy works for people, the stronger Europe in the world, the European way of life, and democracy. So alongside that, of course, we now have what's called the Next Generation EU, which is the recovery fund intended to take us through the aftermath of the COVID and into a new era. The budget for that is proposed at 750 billion euro to go alongside the 1,074 billion euro for the core program. Of that, 14.8 is devoted to the space program. But the Green Deal, there are 8 or 9 different policy areas which are seen to be relevant, including energy, sustainable energy, urban, zero pollution, farm to fork, and all these will have different components which will all contribute to meeting the goal of the Green Deal, which is very clear, which is that Europe becomes the first climate neutral continent by 2050, and the plan to make the economy sustainable. But the goal is clear. The way in which it will be achieved is not yet clear, and so we start to try to address that today. So I'm very pleased we have two very distinguished guests with us. So pleasure to welcome firstly Agnieszka Lukaszek from the Agnieszka is Senior Director for European Affairs with Planet and is also a Director of ERSC, and Ricardo Conde, who is President of the Portuguese Space Agency, and of course the Portuguese are holding the presidency of the EU at the moment. So maybe I can start by inviting Ricardo to say a few words and give a perspective of the key points relating to the space program from the Portuguese point of view, and where possible how this reflects on the Green Deal. Ricardo, floor's yours.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Thank you, Geoff. As you know, the Green Deal relies on many cross sectors, right? And I should say that impacts all the sectors of our society and the way we build our social and economical development model. We all know that this must be changed dramatically, because and the European Green Deal is certainly a package of policies to change exactly our economic sustainable model. But it is also a flagship of motivation and leadership of Europe for international diplomacy, that to have a common understanding, to implement a global level of similar policies, because there are no borders for climate change, and the limited natural resources that we have, and this teeny equilibrium needed between the humankind and the nature is we are putting these in cause. You know that because at the end we are living and facing a serious problems of our extinctions at the end, our species with the climate change. We are observing these the experience that we have in this pandemic, like the fight that we are facing today with this pandemic that requires a global coordination efforts. Because we, as we see, this pandemic doesn't recognize borders, and what is amazing here is the rapid, the fast, so quickly coordination that we observe at the international level to tackle this problem of pandemics, and we also see the difficulties that we have to reach a global agreement to tackle the problem of the climate change. So at the end, what we need is to change our development economic model. You can see how this pandemic forced us to reach a common understanding in Europe to have a global and a global European resilience program, right? So I think it took less than a year to have a common understanding to put this resilience program in place. And this is a lesson learned that we should have in Europe. This, I should say, it was one of probably the only one positive aspect of the COVID pandemic, because we were all together in trouble. And imagine that for a moment that we were not living this pandemic. For sure, we were not so motivated to think to recover Europe, neither to think in resilience plans, right? So we probably continue our business as usual if we were not faces this problem that we are living today. So what we should do is not only recover Europe, we should transform Europe. And this is an opportunity. And this is at least here at the national level, this is what we are preparing. For us, this represented for Europe, this is representing a big opportunity to change and to refurbish Europe in certain areas. And one of the things that we know, all the recovery plans must be aligned with great challenges policies for Europe. For example, the transition for digital and green, this is one of the main pillars of the EU policies. These are parts of the main line of actions of the Portuguese presidency of the European Council. And they foster an European Union for more resilient, more social, more green, more digital, and at the end, more global. And of course, the Portuguese presidency of the EU Council, it is under the context of the continuity of the German presidency. It was last year. And of course, the next one, that will be in Slovenia. And the agendas are coordinated. So at the end, it is an agenda for 18 months. And the main actions are focused in the coordinated response to the crisis that we are living with this pandemic. To protect for example, one of the things that we have as a pillar of our agenda is the social, to protect our citizens, to reinforce the European resilience, and also to overcome the crisis that we are living. So our presidency is focused into restore at the end our social living and the economy as an emergency, but also to address the sustainability growth to reach the Green Deal target, which is the carbon neutral in the 2050.
Thanks, Ricardo. Let me turn to Agnieszka and ask her, because Agnieszka's been looking very much at the Green Deal and how that relates to the space program, and will give us some insights in how the Green Deal is organized, and maybe we come back to the space program in a moment. Agnieszka.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, so much, Ersk, for invitation. Very happy to be here and talk about this important topic together with Ricardo. It's a pleasure to be with you on this, with the two of you at this EOcafe. Indeed, this is an important topic. I think it should be an important topic for everyone, frankly. This is not just something, and some sort of a priority or an objective that EU has kind of, thought about and came up with. This is something that is affecting all of our lives. So, many years ago, maybe not even many, a few years ago, climate change was still considered a hoax, just as the pandemic is right now by some. And but right now, everybody kind of sees that this is the real thing, and this is something that we cannot be kidding about, and we need to be serious about. And everybody has to play a role, not just the European Commission, but also the industry, also the cities, also the citizens. We're kind of all in this together, and it really requires this mutual effort. I have a few slides that I would like to show you. If somebody could allow me to share it, because I am disabled right now from sharing.
We'll put that right.
Can you try now, Agnieszka?
Yeah, now it's good. Thank you. So I will share my slides right now. I just have a couple, just to show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm guessing everybody can see those. Jeff was talking about the priorities of the Commission, but really the main two things that we want to look at here and that are really concerning also our sector is this digital transformation that obviously Earth observation can also not can but should and must be part of, and the sustainability transformation. So sustainability transformation is to make this planet Earth sustainable for long term, not just for us but also for the future generations. And the digital transformation should help us to do this. So combining all kinds of data sources, not just satellite sources, but all kinds of data sources with a combination of artificial intelligence, so machine learning, and I'm sure everybody has heard of Destination Earth and the role of ESA in that, the digital twin Earth, where Earth observation will also play a role, but we need to be able to know what is happening on our planet and be able to really predict things and therefore react properly and quickly, make informed decisions. Now, I wanted to show here just really quick how are we, I mean the Earth observation sector, how are we relevant to this Green Deal? The European Green Deal has these 6 priorities, as you can see here, and we looked at them and we're trying to identify how we can play a role, how we can really help, how we can aid. So greening the CAP, from farm to fork strategy. We are, for instance, of course, I'm giving examples of planet, but this obviously applies to the sector at large. So we can look at land cover and change detection. We can really monitor these changes and making sure that the sustainable agriculture is really happening. We can also look at the small farms, and this is where really industry can play a role, because sentinels can really look at sentinel satellites can look at big agricultural farms, but 40% of farms in Europe is of a small size. So sentinel resolution simply is not enough. So commercial companies such as Planet, but also others, can really play a role there and look at those smaller plots. And of course, look at degradation, etc. Biodiversity loss. I mean, this is huge, right? This is probably, a lot of people would argue that this is our #1 priority, or should be #1 priority in the world. Not so much climate change, obviously, too, but biodiversity is really, really progressing so quickly and so rapidly that, I mean, we're killing the species. And unless we react right now and do something about it, it's just, we're not going to be able to fix it. So to be able to monitor what is happening on Earth, conservation, restoration, prevention, I mean, all of these things, you know, can be really helped with satellite data and all those different applications that come out of it. Forest management, obviously huge. Managing forests worldwide, making sure that deforestation is not happening, but also assuring that reforestation is happening and helping with that. Again, for instance, to show you where industry can play a role. Apparently, I forget what's the exact percentage, but it's like 40 to 45% of deforestation is happening on the single tree level, which means that, you know, it's not that it's a big area that is cut, that is easily seen by Sentinel satellite, for instance, or Landsat, but it's on the single, so it's just, you know, tree here, tree there, and it's also deforestation. This is something that could be caught with higher resolution satellites that commercial sector has to offer. So we can really play a role there as well. Smart mobility, sustainable and smart mobility, and kind of urban rural planning. This is something that we can help with it as well. And we want to make sure that maintaining sustainability in all of these EU policies is happening. This is, I think, something that I would like to leave you with. That what is special about the Green Deal, that it's just not one vertical project. It's a really horizontal project that is going to touch all the verticals at the European Union. So therefore, the approach to European Green Deal also has to be horizontal when it comes to mechanisms, when it comes to the access to tools, access to data, access to finance. It's really something that needs to be done on a horizontal way, horizontal level. And it's not something that EU has done until now, because that sort of big, comprehensive and complex initiative has not happened yet. So so that kind of change of mindset, the shift of a paradigm has to happen, because we want to make sure that EU remains a global leader, not just in the Earth observation with the Copernicus program, but in all these sustainability efforts. So and then, so here, just like the last slide that I want to show you, kind of partnership ideas between industry and government. I think public-private partnerships are a key here. Like I said, we are all in this together. For instance, World Economic Forum, I don't know if you know, has this group of CEOs actually of various companies, I mean, I'm not talking space, anything, any sort of companies where these companies are committing to work with the EU, how to make actually how to meet those Green Deal objectives. So there are many ideas here. So it's from data acquisition, from commercial players. I mean, there's lots of data out there. It's available. This can happen. Can we talk about a public good? Can commercial data, and I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, I'm not advocating, but are we at the point yet with the commercial data, or some part of the commercial data could be made available as a public good, just like a Sentinel? So for instance, the governments or European institutions buy a big chunk of data and then make it available as a public good. Could we have a geospatial center that could really be focusing on these sustainability issues? Apps ecosystem, so make sure that the downstream sector is really included in all of this. And of course, investing in European space leadership. So this is something where we want to make sure that industry can play a role. So this is kind of what I want to leave you with for now. I don't want to just have a monologue here, but those are kind of the ideas that I want to put forward for you.
Yeah, thanks, Agnieszka.
Yeah,
Ricardo, please.
Let me just get some words about the data itself, because I think one of the big challenges that we have is to develop the applications, or the downstream applications, to be more, let's say, democratic. And there are some barriers to access to the data. If we look in the perspective of the open policy, which is a Copernicus program, we think that this should be evolve for next generations of more resolution, time and space resolution to properly implement some more near real-time services and monitoring. And this is something that is missing. There are a lot of initiatives for new satellites constellation with new sensors, but we need to work in the data policy because sometimes when we are thinking to go down in the resolution, there are some questions about the sovereignty of the data, security, defense, but this could be applied also for the GNSS signals. They are free. It was one of the main conditions to develop the downstream itself. So why we should not start thinking to really open and probably to put in the next generations of the Copernicus or even to private constellations, join efforts to tackle the problem of the barriers, remove the barriers to access to the data, because we all agree that one of the main problems that we are having now to develop the downstream is exactly the really true open data policy. I'm not talking about in Europe, of course. I'm talking about worldwide, because there are so many restrictions. I remember, for example, when we start here at the national level, monitoring the North Atlantic Sea in a program with EMSA, European Maritime Safety Agency, I was really surprised about the prices that worldwide the SAR images are. It's an obstacle to develop some kind of policies. Only big institutions, only big agencies could have access to this data. It's quite expensive. There were at that time there was no resolution enough, in time resolution enough, and this is one of the problems that we need to tackle, because to better understand what are the health of our planet, we need to have more, at least time resolution, even space, but time resolution. And this is something that, in my perspective, and we are here in the initiative to develop downstream application, and also at the national level to set up a constellation for the Atlantic, because we are sharing with, of course, with other countries and in Europe, and not only in Europe, this huge mass of water. They have a strong influence in our sustainability as a continent. So we need to tackle this in a proper way. How to foster the data policy to be more democratic, more inclusive. I think this is really a subject that we should put in the discussion on the table and put this in a perspective of the development of the new Copernicus program. Because we know that to foster the data policy, someone must invest, or the governments, the agencies should invest in upstream, of course. But, or as you said, it's something like some kind of openness and agreement between the private sector to have this partnership to provide the service. But at the end, we need to do it. This is some of the priorities that in our presidency we are also start to discuss. We are promoting, just by the way, we are promoting a high-level forum between Africa and Europe. It will be in June, and we will tackle the problem about how to have access to more data, and particularly how to democratize the data to some continents that don't have the possibility, because the environment, the Green Deal is not a question of Europe. Is something like that we need to address out of our borders, right?
Absolutely.
So you talked about changing the economic model, but you're also talking about changing business models and the different business models that could be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because look, now imagine that you have your mobile and you want to know what is the health of the Europe today. Look, of course, we are leadership in Europe in the Earth observation, in the world, in the Earth observation, because we have a strong program. Copernicus is a very credible and amazing program. But we need to go further in the evolution for the next generation, but to be more, let's say, democratic, to have the possibility to develop more applications in the downstream. And I don't see that so far Copernicus is in that level. So I think the cooperation between the Copernicus program, private sector, regional sensors in situ also is something that I think we should address.
You give me a dilemma, because I'd love to carry on discussing down that line, but I feel I should pull it back towards the Green Deal, which our other guests have come to hear about. So I don't know, how do you link that with the needs of the Green Deal? Well, how is the Green Deal influencing the space program, where you're very closely involved in the work to prepare it?
Look, if we are looking to the space program, one of the main pillars is the Earth observation to foster the Copernicus, particularly Copernicus.
We're all believers.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, if we are looking to the future, we need to think the next generation of Copernicus to tackle this problem, because at the end, what we are doing with this information is to build models. Look, this initiative of the digital twin Earths is something really serious that we can benefit with a new, probably new, or not a new data policy, but more open data policy to better resolutions. Look at one example that we are facing, one problem here, and it's not only Portugal, but the South European countries. We have the problems of the fires. There are no near real-time operations capabilities by satellite to tackle this problem. We need 2 hours, 1 hour, the revisiting time for every this information. I was involved in several meetings with our national civil protection that they said, look, we are very proud to have the Copernicus, but we need more. We need more. We need to complement this. So this tackle the many other dimensions that developed in the new constellations. Probably the new generations of the Copernicus should be taking this in account. So we have, for example, here this extension of Atlantic that we have in front of us. Probably you don't know, but if you look to our economic, maritime economic region, we are probably the second largest country in Europe. And we need to do something. This is an environment, not only to tackle the interactions between the oceans, but the atmosphere, but also all the economic value. 40% of our economy is coming from the maritime sector, or is linked to the maritime sector. So the space program, combining several trends, secure communications, artificial intelligence, looking to the data analytics for the mass of data that we start to get. This is something that should be, at the end, be pragmatically implemented in some programs. So helping SMEs, new startups, we need to be more disruptive. And if we compare to, it's not the case of Earth observation, but other areas, we are very, we are so late compared to with other countries.
I think industry will be well behind that, and talk about innovation and disruptiveness. Agnieszka, do you want to comment there? I can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is absolutely the case. We need to be disruptive and try new things. And I think that there's often this bit of um how should I put it, like insecurity slash imposter syndrome, where we really want to follow up, US footsteps. So US has SpaceX, we want to have something like that, or US is doing something, we want to do something similar. Well, let's do something different that hasn't been done yet, and let's be a leader and champion in that. How about that? I think that would be, my advice. And now, especially with the Green Deal as a priority, and having Copernicus as an Earth observation program that is really, something else. I think I would say this is the avenue where we should go, because we are very good at it. I mean, Europe, right? We're very good at Earth observation. We're not so good at being disruptive. So how about being disruptive in that, and allow this movement to move forward and create something that hasn't been done, that the Americans can look and be like, look what the Europeans are doing. We should be doing that, rather than us always trying to catch up and chase. So that would be, but that requires different thinking. That requires bold thinking. That requires taking risks, because if you're doing something for the first time, it might or might not work. And that's something that we need to be prepared for, so instead of always
This is
betting
exactly the point.
on just one less thing on this, instead of always betting on what we know, what we feel safe with, do something different. There's I don't know if you saw, but just I think it was just a couple of days ago, a German association of like space companies, but there were also some international companies, wrote a letter to the commission that's been publicized actually by several outlets, saying, give opportunities to European new space industry. Let us show what we can do. Let us, open contracts and consortia also for these new space companies that are willing to do things a little bit different. Don't just do the same thing over and over again, because there should be room for all of us.
One of the areas, and I participate in a very important meeting regarding this disruption moment that Europe needs, for example, for launchers, because we are late to develop the micro launchers, so the new generation of launchers to low cost access to space. And this was in a meeting with responsible persons from the European Commission. And one of the topics was how to foster the demands in Europe to tackle the problem. Surprisingly, Europe is very, of course, very reactive. Takes some time to have decisions, 2-3 years, and this is exactly the opposite. We cannot spend, for example, 2 years discussing how we are implementing a disruptive model for look, the Earth observation high resolution Copernicus trends, for example, or even for the launcher. So we need to be more probably to open this more to the markets. You know that I heard once that one of the problems of Europe is we don't have millionaires that wants to take the risk. And this is something that we should think, because normally we are really conservative. We are waiting for our institutions to react, to supporting the market. And this is, I don't see any kind of changes in terms of move fast. And this is one of the things that we need, is to move fast in some sectors. Probably it's not here in the topic today, in particular that observation, because we are, of course, we have some success, but we need to go to another level. And particularly the cooperation, this is one of the things that we are, as I said, we are promoting in our presence, is to try to cooperate with other countries, and particularly with Africa, because there are so many opportunities, like we did with the GMS for Africa, GMS for Africa. So we need to implement a new framework of collaboration. with Africa. And international collaboration is something that we really need to tackle the Green Deal, because many of the things are, as I said, there are no borders for the atmosphere, for the ocean.
Yeah, you touched earlier on the international diplomacy dimension of the Green Deal, and some of the international implications are quite strong, and it's not something that can be developed on its own. If we're thinking of energy and how energy resources are going to be changed or replaced, so you're disrupting trade patterns. So there are many implications of the goal of being climate neutral by 2050, which have repercussions on the international stage. I think what you're saying certainly highlights the complexity of this domain as well. And for the Green Deal, the governments really are customers for the data that's produced from systems like Copernicus and systems like the commercial systems and commercial services. So
I also think, Geoff, that yes, the governments are customers. They need to implement policies. You know that there are some. If we spend more 10 years to discussing how to go forward to implement the programs, that we will not reach an agreement in 2050.
Yeah.
So also another dimension is the education. Our young students are more, they have this mindset of the environment, right? But
absolutely,
this is. But probably this is we have this perspective because we are in Europe. But I think the US also not probably like us. But there are other parts of the globe, in particular, I'm reinforce the message in Africa. We need to work also in education, and our space can contribute this also to be the tools to better monitoring, to better acquiring data, and to better react according to the models that we are building based on that on this data. So the education is one of the aspects, the part of the Green Deal should be.
Again, there are so many subjects spinning out of this. There's a question which is sort of quite close to this point, I think, of government as customer, and especially for services, which Richard Hall has posed. Richard, do you want to come in?
Hello, Jeff. Hello, Ricardo. So, hello, everyone. Sorry, just I heard my name and I was only half listening. So, what do you want me to
danger? Well, you asked a question. I was telling you to ask your question, but you ask about services and supplying of Earth observation services, but also a model for environmental services.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time talking to startup companies and SMEs, and one of the points they struggle with is understanding who their customer is, who their user is. And the analogy I use is that the weather services, how we consume weather information at different levels, is a good business model, but you have to understand who your user is. So if we want to know the general weather wherever we're living, we'll switch on our various apps or our television broadcasts or radio broadcasts and get the weather. And we'll make a decision. If it's raining in Brussels, Jeff, you may decide to stay home, you might decide to walk, you may decide to go in the car. But it's your risk of how wet you get. You own your risk. It's your decision. But if you're a farmer now, you don't want a general weather forecast isn't good enough for your decision making. I come from an orchard background. I always tell the story where my grandfather used to ring the local weather forecaster to, "Is going to be a frost tonight?" Because it would light smoke fires in the evening to protect the blossom. Today, well, in the 90s, he would ring a premium telephone number to get to the weather forecaster and pay an extra for that extra information. Today, he would have an app giving him that extra dedicated information. And this is how the start, and this is how you develop, this is how you pay for services. It's the same data, it's the same general data that makes the general weather forecast. But if you require specific information, it comes for cost, and that's services.
Yeah. So it's the notion that Copernicus is offering free and open services, paid for by the public sector. So logically, it's perfectly correct. But then there are additional services on top of that, which can be just in case people can't read the logo, but explain the background. Richard works for Equinor, so the energy company.
Very good, Jeff.
Ricardo, Agnieszka, any comment?
I mean, I think it's I think it's a good approach. I don't think there's ever going to be a choice that we will have to make between public and commercial services or data. Frankly, I think we need both, and I think this shouldn't be really about competition. It should be really about complementarity. There are certain needs where there's no market for for commercial companies. So the commercial companies will never go there, but there is a public good need where I think public sector needs to step in. So therefore these services should meet those needs. And I think that goes without saying. Same thing with Sentinel satellites, et cetera. They're doing something that maybe a lot of commercial companies would not go into because there's just not sufficient market opportunity there. But then we can complement all that and we can add an extra layer, more precise layer with private services, so private commercial data. And together, when you put those together, actually, that's where you really have the solution or the answer. And this is what we're trying to do here. I think this is what we're trying to advocate. It's not either or; it's both.
Yeah, I do agree, and I do agree. But the thing is, there are some specific markets that could be addressed. For example, with the precision farming that needs to combining with the GNSS data and also the analysis of the soils, that some specific companies, and we have some of them here, they are providing to the farmers some kind of information based on the satellite service. That means they are not only the raw data itself, but it's the information coming, some knowledge inside or in the layer to this information to produce and to deliver a specific product or services to some, like the vineyards that we have here also, the fisheries, to detect some streaming with the plankton, with this kind of maritime parameters that allows to build a model to deliver some specific customers. That's of course, generally, and if you look worldwide, there are no companies sustainable in this business without to having the government and as a procurement services or to buy amount, government and institution to buy a big amount of data. There are no pure Earth observation company lives in the private markets. We know that. There are some institutional also government agencies. They are buying this data to try to put in the several segments. So always we have the institution behind the business. I give you an example that we are facing now. One of the problems that we are trying to face and to solve with the satellite data. This is the Land Registry. We are now complementing the old studies that we did and coverage of our mainland. And we are, let's say, renew our information systems, and we are looking to our resolution satellite data to have a dynamic land registry. this is something that we should do it with some kind of new technologies. And we are here promoting the new generations of the sensors and satellites and very high resolutions in terms of time and space to feed exactly this model. And the government and the municipalities are behind this. So we are getting this data, and what we are doing is to try to feed the land registry project that we have in hand now to try to have some dynamic. And this will have, for example, the fires. Every year we have the problems of the fires that depends of the management of the territory that we have here. And of course, high resolution satellite data and this procurement of high resolution data is something that the governments are putting in place, but they are the companies. They are proposing and promoting their projects to the municipalities to have some kind of new services and avoiding what we have so far, which is the coverage 2 in 2 years by airplanes, sensors in airplanes. So we are moving for, and it's quite expensive, to a new approach using high resolution satellites. And this is a combination of both, the complement of the public and private sector. This is what we are trying to do here.
That's really interesting, really great
So
initiative.
job is fostering and try to promote exactly the downstream. The government put somewhere in a platform high resolution data, and there are some companies that use this high resolution data to promote some kind of specific application. You see?
Yeah. There are a number of other questions, and I want to give the floor to some others. But one question I did want to ask you, because we briefly discussed it before, but is links to the recovery plan. Because I think you were suggesting that there could be sort of elements put into the recovery plan. As my perspective is, that's mainly down to national initiatives. So it's national governments that will define that. Are you able to comment a bit on that aspect?
I can give you the national initiative that we are having. We are building an agenda for the national recovery plan and put space as a dimension to be covered in our national recovery. And for that, we are promoting exactly this national data policy. This is exactly what I mentioned before. So we are looking to develop what we call here a digital planet, which is an open platform to collect several kind of Earth observation data, in particular the data coming from new high resolution satellites, and to fit and to implement at a national level this kind of policy to tackle the problems that we have. And for that, also in our national recovery plan, we are putting, we are now discussing this because it's the moment to do it, a cooperative satellite constellation, high resolution cooperative with other countries, the satellite constellation, to tackle exactly our problems in the land, to create a new real-time operations like the fires, and also the monitoring of the traffic in this huge amount of water that we have in front of us. And this is something that we are doing. But I know that, and you also know, that there are many countries that put satellites also, and these not only Earth observation satellites, but quantum communication in the recovery.
Yeah. You answered my follow-up question as well then about the talking with other countries and working in partnerships. Just a reminder to everybody, if you've got a question, just put it into the chat. You mentioned sort of the digital destination Earth there. Emmanuel Mondon had a question around that. Emmanuel, perhaps you come in on that topic.
Yeah, good afternoon. I was wondering if the European Green Deal is user-focused, and Agnieszka was mentioning Destination Earth and Digital Twin Earth, and those two initiatives are technology push, as usual, I would say, or market pull, which would be much more interesting for the European industry. Thanks. Should I explain market pull?
No, I'm not sure. Ricardo, do you want to comment on around?
I think it should be both, because the Green Deal, in particular the space program, should push for the technology development, because if you look to the space program, there are technological ambitions to be in the next step in several years. We are having here the next generations of the GNSS services with the second generation of Galileo. We have also the new sensors and the new Copernicus satellites. We have the GovSatcom. So everything converge, because we are in the moment globally in the convergences of the new technologies that will dramatically change the way we live. And of course, the technological push is an answer to this main goal, which is the Green Deal. For example, we are living in the moment that we need answers from the science, right? And this is really a good opportunity to put the science and technology in the spotlight. Because one thing that we learned with this pandemic is when you turn on your television to see the news in the afternoon, the big brothers of this life were changing to the new actors in space and the new actors in science, like scientists in the news, to advise how to, and advise the governments also, how to we should rely on the science to be more sustainable. And of course, all the space program is to be technological push mainly, but with a main goal to be, let's say, to be more sustainable the way we live in 10 years, or 10 or even less. So this is the technology is contributing to the way we will change our life in several years.
Which touches back to the pandemic, as you were talking earlier as well.
Look, we are facing one. We are really concerned with this pandemic, because this is a problem, but it is an opportunity also to reformulate our strategy and in Europe, because if we are not having this pandemic, probably we are doing our business as usual. And nobody see, probably this is now we start to see, but it's quite difficult to understand that we are facing a big tragedy in the climate change and the way it will affect us. And Earth observation, particular Earth observation by satellite and the space, this is one of the answers that the science can give to tackle and to understand the monitor on this problem.
Maybe one of the only sources in some areas. We should draw this to a close. We'll have a sort of an open forum at the end as usual. But I just, Agnieszka, Ricardo, do you have any last comments you want to make before I close this part of the meeting?
Yes, sure. I mean, I think we could, this is a big topic and we could talk about it for a long time. And I know that you will have more sessions on this topic. It's a pity that we didn't manage to get anybody from the Commission here. I know you've tried a lot. So hopefully they will be more willing in the future, because there's lots of unknowns still for us. And there's lots of ambiguities. We still don't know. I know that what Emmanuel has mentioned about the destination Earth and digital twin Earth. It's not very clear how this is actually going to work still, and what the approach is going to be, and what kind of role we can play. So this is something that needs to be discussed, and we would like to pay attention to all of these things, and because it is important to all of us. But also I'm glad that the pandemic has been brought up, because it also demonstrated extremely unfortunate event, but it also demonstrated how valuable the remote sensing technology is. Because while lots of businesses have been suffering, remote sensing business has been growing, because a lot of companies and governments and institutions realize that where they cannot send people, for instance, to verify things, to monitor things, to check on things, they can rely on remote sensing data. And that's really something that showed that there was like a kind of real life use case where remote sensing data was really proven to be extremely valuable. So I think there's going to be more and more of that. But when it comes to the Green Deal, I would like to second and echo to what Ricardo said, that international cooperation here is absolutely essential. Climate is a global issue. It's not a European issue. It's not a regional issue. And if we really want to make a change, we really need to work together. So we can compete in lots of stuff, but let's keep this one as a collaborative effort. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. Ricardo?
Yeah, this is also one of our contributions as a presidency of the EU Council. We are organized several conferences, international level, not European, but international with other continents, to alert and to look to Europe as an example how to tackle the problems of the climate change and these dimensions of the Green Deal. Again, we are promoting in the 10th and 11th of June, Africa-Europe Space Earth Observation High-Level Forum. And we will address the space as an enabler for digital and green transition. With the Earth observation fostering sustainability development, new skills and new job creation. But to conclude my side, Geoff, there are other dimensions, because if we are looking to Earth observation systems, we need to take care also the outer space. So the space as a common good, because we need to be green on space also, because we are having this huge problem of space debris. Yeah. And the space debris is one of the things that could have some big implications in how we are planning to look the Earth from the sky. Yeah. Because this is something that Europe is taking in the policies of the space program from the new space surveillance tracking program for the situational awareness, and also the space traffic management. This is something that impacts the Earth observation system, and we need to have a look on that.
Yeah, it's good you remind us of that. It's something that often gets overlooked. Agnieszka touched on something that I should have said at the beginning, and I forgot to do, that we did make quite strenuous efforts to invite the Commission to participate to this EOcafe. Unfortunately, it turned out that the timing was wrong, and so we will now have a dedicated session later on. Firstly, looking at research and development and Horizon Europe and the way that will contribute to the Green Deal. And there's quite a lot to talk about there. I wanted to mention the mission areas, particularly the mission area attached to climate adaptation, which I think is a really interesting concept, and something that should be of real interest for us. There will be a large number of demonstrations that are set up in relation to these 5 mission areas, and hopefully we'll be able to learn a little bit more about that next time. Well, not next time in the EOcafe, but in about a month or so's time. But it also goes to remind me really how short an hour is. We've been going an hour, And yeah, we could have really developed some of the subjects a lot further and gone into a lot more detail. So it was a great discussion. It I hope it's helped somewhat with understanding the Green Deal, even if we moved away from that quite a lot. But as I said, we will come back to the subject, so there will be the opportunity to learn more, and we will try to help everyone understand where they should be looking in order to understand what opportunities there are and where Earth observation can contribute. So I will draw the meeting to a close at that point. I just wanted to point out to people that we do now produce a written sort of record of these meetings. We write up a short piece to summarize what was discussed. Those are available on my blog. It's not my blog, but it's called Jeff's blog. So that's where to look, and we'll continue to do so. So there will be a write up of today. The next EOcafe will be in 2 weeks' time, as usual. We hope to be talking about Earth observation and gaming. So all you gamers out there, it could be an interesting subject to come and have a chat around. At which point I will sort of close this structured part of the informal EOcafe. And anyone who wants to hang around and just have a chat, please do so. Finally, a special thank you to Ricardo and Agnieszka for sharing their thoughts with us today. And maybe welcome you at future EOcafes. So thank you all. Have a good, excuse me, voice is running out. Have a good evening.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.